Could the Detroit Lions have interest in Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe? Now, the immediate answer might be no, right? Because they just signed Jared Goff to a massive contract extension, and just 2 years prior to that, drafted Hendon Hooker in the second round by trading up to the 65th overall pick to select him. And yet, this offseason, as the Lions go through and do their due diligence, they are looking at quarterbacks. They are looking at just a single quarterback, that being Jalen Milroe, the Alabama product. Now, why would that be? Why would the Detroit Lions only be looking at a single quarterback prospect this year and none of the others? Well, it's because they clearly have interest in the product. They clearly like something about his game and feel there is a value to him at some point in the NFL draft. And today, we're going to take a look at what that value is, where he may be selected, and why it might be a very smart move for the Detroit Lions to draft him. Now, before we get into it, there is context to this, right? Because the Detroit Lions did meet with him at the NFL Combine. They have scheduled him for a top 30 visit, and we know just how important those top 30 visits are to the Detroit Lions, as well as being the only quarterback to have those opportunities. No other quarterback met with the Lions at the NFL Combine. No other quarterback met with the Detroit Lions or has scheduled a top 30 visit this offseason with the Lions. It is just Jalen Milroe and Jalen Milroe alone. So there must be a reason for that. There must be something about Milroe's game that they really like, and he could potentially end up in Honolulu Blue. Now, Jalen Milroe is the prototypical modern-day quarterback. At 6'2", 201 pounds, he has over 6,000 career passing yards, 1,500 career rushing yards, and over 78 career touchdowns. His best year as a player by far came in the 2023 season, where he led Alabama to a 12-2 overall record and a Rose Bowl appearance in the college football playoffs before eventually falling in overtime to who would go on to be the college football national champions in Michigan. That season, Jalen Milroe had a 66% completion rate, which is better than Drake May's completion percentage the year he was drafted number 3 overall. He passed for 2,834 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, all of which are comparable to J.J. McCarthy's number in a significantly lesser amount of games played. He had 12 rushing touchdowns and over 500 yards on the ground, while finishing 6th in Heisman voting and again leading Alabama to the Rose Bowl in an overtime matchup against Michigan, who would go on to win the national championship. He was looked at coming into this season as one of the best college football quarterbacks around and potentially one of the few deserving of a first-round pick. If he took another step in his development and was able to truly take over Alabama football at the quarterback position, he would have been a first-round pick. Even as late as November, he was projected as high as the top 20 of the NFL draft, but since that day, he has fallen quite significantly. He has, as of recently, been ranked somewhere between the 80s and 100s area of the NFL draft. And while his draft stock is rising very slowly due to his NFL Combine and Pro Day productions, he will not be a first-round pick. He may not even be a second-round pick and is likely a late day 2, if not early day 3 option for an NFL team to take a flyer pick on and hope to develop the project QB. In 2024, Jalen Milroe statistically took a step back with a 64% completion rate, 2,844 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Milroe was not a good passer. He did progress on the ground with 700 yards and 20 touchdowns, which is a remarkable number for the quarterback position, but he wasn't the best player, and his draft stock fell accordingly. Now, there are a lot of reasons as to why Jalen Milroe fell as a prospect. There are lots of reasons to why he may not have developed properly at the University of Alabama. And going from 2023 with NFL players around him, one of the best head coaches of all time, and a comparable defense on the other side of things, 2024 was less than ideal, as Jalen Milroe lost a lot. He had a new head coach in 2024, a new offensive coordinator. He lost Jermaine Burton to the NFL draft and Isaiah Bond to the transfer portal, as well as Ja'Cory Brooks, who went to Louisville through the transfer portal. He lost 2 of his best offensive linemen on the interior, with C.J. Latham being a first-round pick to Tennessee and Jason McClellan going to Ohio State as a 4-star prospect in the transfer portal. He lost a lot of other players, including Jace McClellan, his running back, which meant the running game at Alabama was significantly depleted. And overall, he lost a lot, right? He lost his top 3 wide receivers. He lost his top 2 offensive linemen. He lost his running back. He lost his offensive coordinator. He lost his head coach. The defense on the other side of the ball made things significantly tougher on Jalen Milroe than they were in 2023. And even though all of those aspects were still pretty good, all things considered, if you look at that Alabama roster, they really weren't that talented. The run game wasn't nearly as good as it was in 2023. His receiving options this year were Ryan Williams, who, while being very talented, is a 17-year-old true freshman kid who had 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. Behind that, the second leading receiver had 500 yards and was a career journeyman through the transfer portal. The offense was stitched together. The offensive line had some good pieces, but the wide receiving core was really poor. The offensive line was just not the best, and even the offensive play calling never really truly seemed to help Jalen Milroe excel in the passing game as much as it did in the rushing attack. Milroe picked up the slack on the ground for a lot of different people and was a big reason as to why Alabama even made a relevant bowl game and faced Michigan yet again. And unfortunately, they fell in that game. Jalen Milroe didn't play very well in that game, but they would not have made it without the QB contributions of Jalen Milroe. Now, as a prospect, Milroe has a lot of strengths. Again, he is the prototypical modern-day quarterback with the size, the power, and the athleticism to have every NFL trait in the book. He is a toolsy quarterback with speed for days, a good arm, and more importantly, a really good work ethic. Right? Nick Saban and Bill O'Brien talk all the time about how Jalen Milroe works very hard. He is a first guy in, last guy out kind of player, and that work ethic should not be ignored, right? He is a great kid with a great personality who loves the game of football. He would bring immediate explosiveness to the offense, an immediate rushing upside, and an immediate ability to extend plays and turn broken plays into big game-changing ones in a way that Jared Goff and the Lions offense, as of right now, really has no ability to do. Now, like every prospect, and especially like every quarterback prospect in this class, Jalen Milroe has issues. He is the definition of the project, right? He is this year's Lamar Jackson. He is this year's Jalen Hurts. He is this year's Malik Willis. He is this year's Trey Lance, right? Some of those guys work and some of them do not. Some of them are drafted very high and some of them are drafted very low. And while some are going to be successful, others are destined to fail. He does have consistent accuracy issues. His footwork isn't great. He doesn't see the field as cleanly as some of the other prospects in this class, and especially not as much as people in the last class. But the upside is there. The ability to play quarterback is most certainly there. And with his personality coupled with his traits, I would be willing to bet on Jalen Milroe far before I bet on Cam Ward, far before I bet on Shedeur Sanders, and probably even before I bet on Jackson Dart. He may be the rawest quarterback in this class, but for the value you're getting as a potential third-round pick, as opposed to spending a top 5, top 10 pick on Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, I think Jalen Milroe is by far the best value in this draft class, and especially with where his draft stock is, right? Falling from probably the top 20 back in November to outside the top 100 today. Jalen Milroe's value is quite good in the class. Even if you don't think he'll be a good quarterback, you almost have to take that pick in the hundreds just in case he does turn into that player, in case he does turn into Lamar Jackson, in case he does turn into Jalen Hurts, in case he does turn into Josh Allen level of a player. You have to take him and see what he can become. And for the Detroit Lions in their quarterbacking schedule, that almost works out perfectly. Jared Goff signed that big contract extension. He's on the roster through 2028. But if the Lions were to draft Jalen Milroe today or in this upcoming draft class, he would have 2 years on his contract by the time Jared Goff could be off the contract, right? You can cut Jared Goff before the final year is up, cut him after 2027, let Jalen Milroe play 28, play 29, and you have 2 years of a rookie quarterback with 2 years of development, 2 years in the system, 2 years working with the players and the offense and learning how to play at an NFL level with 2 preseasons, OTAs, off seasons, mini camp, training camp, all the different organizational things that they do. Jalen Milroe would have over 2 years of NFL development before he ever has to hit the stage. And when he does, he's going to be ready. And if he's not ready, Well, you go to the next plan. You keep Jared Goff for a little longer. You again recycle and take your shot at a potential high upside quarterback, just like they did with Hendon Hooker. Now, where does Hendon Hooker fit into all of this? Well, probably he doesn't, right? At this point, Hendon Hooker, I don't think has a future in Detroit. His contract expires before Jared Goff does in Detroit, meaning he'll likely, despite injury, never actually get a chance to start or play. Unless Jared Goff goes down with a major long-term injury, Hendon Hooker will never get a chance to play in Detroit. He'll either have to get traded or have to play out the rest of his contract and sign as a free agent in his free agency class in 2028. That is unfortunate for him, but that's not really the Detroit Lions issue. If Hendon Hooker's development isn't going the way they wanted, they have no ties or have to keep Hendon Hooker. Yeah, it sucks that they missed on a third-round pick, but don't dwell on it. Don't keep him around for the sake of making and forcing the pick to work. If Hendon Hooker hasn't recovered from his ACL, if Hendon Hooker isn't the same player you thought he could be out of Tennessee, do not force the fit. If he is not a player you see a future with, move on. Draft a player like Jalen Milroe, who has even more upside, even more potential, isn't coming off of injury, is a hard worker, has every indication that he can succeed at the NFL level. Take your chance on him. Let him develop for 2 years, just like you did with Hendon Hooker. And if in 2027 he doesn't work out, go to the next quarterback prospect. Find that next player after Jared Goff. But if you compare situations, at the earliest, Hendon Hooker plays in 2027. He's 30 years old going into the NFL season, has never played the NFL quarterback position as a starter. The athleticism that made him dangerous at Tennessee is no longer there. And if the accuracies don't get significantly better, he's not an NFL starting quarterback. Compare that to Jalen Milroe, who in 2027 will be just 25 years old, in the prime of his NFL career, with the athleticism that makes him dangerous, with a potential step up as a passer. He could be a very dangerous player with a surrounding cast that is phenomenal. Now, again, this is all speculation. Jalen Milroe would have to fall to the right point in the NFL draft. He'd have to fall probably to pick 102 with the compensatory pick for the Lions to take him in the draft. But one thing is very clear. The Detroit Lions like Jalen Milroe. There is something about Milroe's game that he really, really likes. That is Brad Holmes. And if there is the right value, if Jalen Milroe is at the right pick, the Lions are going to take him. And the Lions are going to take their shot on another quarterback prospect to see if he can be the future and face of the franchise. But with that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about Jalen Milroe. Do you like him as a prospect? Do you think he's worth the draft pick? Or are you staying as far away as possible and riding with Hendon Hooker? I'm curious to hear your guys' opinions. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below your opinions on Jalen Milroe. I'd be curious to hear everybody's opinion. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.